Hey there, welcome back to the Complicated Kids podcast. I'm your host, Gabrielle Nicolay. I am a speech therapist, a parent coach, and a toddler whisperer. And today I have Scott Proposki with me. Scott, welcome.
Well, great to be here, and thank you for having me, Gabrielle.
Thanks for being here. I'm excited for our conversation. We have a little bit of a what I would consider a lighter touch today, which is always fun. But before we get started, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I always when I meet somebody and I tell them, what do you do? The networking events, and I say I'm a former National Geographic and event photographer for the White House. I tell you, most people pay attention and they go, "What?"
Yep.
So that's my intro. I'm a former National Geographic event photographer for the White House and for HBO, Microsoft, Google, and many other corporate clients.
And you had a bit of an experience during COVID because you had this very thriving situation, and then something happened.
Yeah, right. Something, COVID was good for some people. It created new businesses, new ideas. And for others, it ended businesses and ideas. For me, um, well, it ended for me, not knowingly. And when you have a business in the entertainment business during COVID, entertainment, event photography, large volumes of people, that's what we specialized in. The Patriots, the NFL, the NHL, Winterfest, these all have a bunch of people in it, and they weren't going to happen anymore. You end up losing people, employees, can't keep them. 2 years goes on. You just can't shut the water off quick enough. It just continues to leak. And it gets to the point where there was no rebuilding. It was going on 3 decades, 2.5 decades of building what I had. And it got to a point where at 58 years old, I decided that where would I be better served here? And that was the big question. It took me 4 years to figure it out. Where am I better served? What can I do?
And what was your answer? Please tell.
Well, actually, the power of coaching. This is a great example of, having coaches and all sorts of different coaches, ADHD coach and business coach and mindset coach, right? I believe in coaching. I had some amazing coaches. And during that tough time, I was talking to my coach and I was I'm not the complainer kind of guy, but I was in a kind of a deep, dark spot during those times. And I was saying how much people online, YouTube, Instagram, they were saying they were experts and they could help people build their photography business or the creative business. And it's like, and I love people sharing. I love helping other people, giving them knowledge, but I believe it's only bragging rights till after you do it, right? And so I was kind of complaining about it. I'm really passionate about the industry. I was the top 1% of event photographers at my time. Um, so I saw that happening.
Mm.
And it was these words that changed everything to me. Scott, why don't you do something about it? Hmm, that's fair.
And so you did
Well,
what?
well, in fashion, with the way my mind works, when I see a vision and see the big picture, boom, I go do it. And I called my coaching program after my book that I wrote in 2019, which was called Camera Focused. Um, Instantaneously, I came up with the Camera Focus method, and it was basically a program to help creative entrepreneurs, photographers, creative worlds, how to build a better business, a business that can last a lifetime.
And what do you think? You kind of alluded to it just now, but like how did you do that? Like what possesses somebody to do that?
Yeah, you kind of know when you know. Um,
Mm.
and interesting fact, when I was in some of my very high performing coaching programs, there was an exercise we did. And it was like, this is the one thing we did at a whole full day workshop. Flew to Toronto, Canada for this one thing. I didn't know what we're going to do when I walked into the workshop, but I found out real fast. It was describing what our life looks like 1 year from today, 5 years from today, and 25 years. There's all sorts of versions of that, but I never really sat down to do it. That day, well, we collaborated together in the room and we all kind of wrote our own, 1 year, 5 year, and 25-year life plan. And part of that 25-year life plan for me, which now was about when I wrote that, maybe 12, 13 years ago,
Mm.
I said I was going to have published 3 books during that time. And I'll probably have a little gray hair, white hair on the top, which if you're watching the video, I do now today. And I said I was going to be a consultant. I was going to help other photographers, other businesses back then. And
Mm.
the word was consultant, not necessarily coach, right? Um, Now I'm probably about 15 years ahead of myself and doing what I said I was going to do 25 years ago.
Pretty
So
fun.
how did I come up with that? Well, I've already published 3 books. I'm ahead of my time there, of my time, not in technology time. And doing what I said I was going to do. It was already in my mindset to do this.
Mm.
And I found that out afterwards when people started asking me questions. That very question you asked me, what made you do this? Why? How come? I don't know. I think I always was meant to do this.
Mm.
And when I see a vision, I see a vision. And that was my problem during COVID. When you're a creative individual and that vision stops and you don't know what the next thing is and you're stuck, you can't go anywhere. I'm almost
Mm.
paralyzed.
Mm. Mm.
And for the first time, I experienced that because I was very driven. I was on the road, traveling, National Geo, this job, that job, go, 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 right? Get somebody like me to stop. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well.
That focus, that kind of seeing the vision and going for it is, I think, something that people listening to this podcast are going to understand because by and large, and mostly we talk about kids on this podcast, their children can demonstrate this in certain circumstances and not in others. So in psychology land, we call this hyperfocus, or we call this ADHD. We call it a lack of attention, which we really mean you don't want to pay attention to what I want you to pay attention to, but you will happily sit for hours and pay attention to something that you want to pay attention to.
Oh, yeah.
Are the people that you serve, and are you kind of in this neurotype? This is how your brains are working? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I always tell people, you need to be one to know one. And, eh, honestly, that's where the connection happens, right? I actually get it. I mean, I get being hyper focused and focused on one thing where 3 days goes by for me and working on a new website concept. Like literally just this past weekend, 3 days, my wife said, what are you doing over there? What are you working on? It's just an update on my website, update on the website. And I look back on my work that I did past 3 days. It's amazing of what I'm predicting AI for photography to be.
Mm.
And I'm trying to vision this 5, 10 years in the future, what that would look like. So that's a future project I'm working on, but super hyper focused on this. And when I look back on it just this morning, it was amazing.
Mm. Mm. When people come to you, what do they come to you for? What are they looking for?
Well, most photographers, creative business owners, entrepreneurs, they're great at photography or the creative side of the business, not the business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they initially got the connection with me, the conversations of they heard me maybe on my YouTube channel or Instagram videos. And when they look a little bit deeper and they find out they can actually get a hold of me, like my cell phone rings and I answer the phone, they go, Scott, is this you? I'm like, yep, it's me. I answer my own phone. Um, but those are the people that know that they need help in business.
Mm.
And you can't tell somebody you need help in business, but if they know it and they're looking for it, we can do amazing things together.
I think you just described like about probably 100% of small business owners where, right, we're really
100%.
good at what we're really good at. And then the other stuff just kind of comes along for the ride. and we get to deal with a bunch of stuff that we have no idea we're not very good at, and we don't really know what it is. So this, and in your case, it strikes me, you're also dealing with creatives. and you're a creative. And so when I say the word creative, like for me, what that means is like I have something that I'm really interested in. Maybe I'm not that organized, or I need a system that works for me. I don't tell me about this word creative and how it resonates with you in terms of like ADHD or anybody else for that matter. But like, what is a creative, and what are the strengths of what are the needs there?
Yeah, well, I always tell people that creativity doesn't happen between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's true. And people get it. And um, that's number one. And I know that for a fact, even for myself. But I also know how to set up my environment. If you're watching this video right now, this is my podcast studio that looks exactly on YouTube, but pull up to it. Most times it works as soon as I turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the other side of my office is my office. Um, and believe it or not, I'm super organized in my office and even the setup for here,
Mm-hmm.
which most people are surprised about. Um, but I'm very visionary in this particular project. I'm very focused in it, what it looks like, how it's set up. So that happens to be my focus,
Mm-hmm.
is being organized in this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was taking photographs, traveling for National Geo or HBO, my home office and equipment, it was a mess.
Mm.
My mind wasn't there. My mind's here to be focused office and business focused. And that's the difference, right? I could be creative in this space. People say, "Hey, how'd you create the podcast studio? That looks great. That looks awesome." I'm like, I don't know. I just did some lights and this, and I don't. Why? Yeah, I guess it looks good. I don't know the difference, but in my mind, I know what it should look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the creative side. So instead of being photography creative, which I most definitely was, I'm now more creative in helping business owners um, focus on being a creative business and being unique and different.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's the big shift in the world, especially photography, right? Very competitive today. Very competitive. It's not going away. It's just competitive. What makes you so unique? What's your unique dominant position that makes you stand out?
Mm. When you were growing up, what was the mood around unique and different and around your way of being in the world?
Well, when I would come home on report card day, we would celebrate if we had a C minus. That was that was that was big news. That was great. And I joke, but I'm not joking, right?
Yeah.
And take that was a win. And that little thing kind of got me going
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, oh, I have to get A's, I have to get B's. And you feel like a failure, right? So I'm like, I'm okay with it. Dad,
And
you
were
okay with it? I'm okay with it. you know?
were your parents okay with it too, or were they kind of like, Scotty's, riding the rails?
No, because it was interesting because I was showing up to school every day.
Mm-hmm.
Never did a stitch of homework
Mm-hmm.
first minute, but I was always there every day, right? Get it done the last second, the last minutes, right? Um, sounds familiar, huh? Still doing the same thing today. Um, I needed that deadline to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same thing today in my own business and even my photography jobs. The deadline to get to XYZ, that was the adrenaline for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure I get to the White House at this time, by this, do this, by that. I could do it. Um, so, when I was older in life and understood that I had ADHD diagnosed, a lot of things started to make sense for me, right?
Yeah.
And it was very helpful for me.
Yeah. So you were diagnosed later in
Yeah, I
life.
was 58 today. I was like 52 at the time.
Oh
So
wow. Okay, so this is a recent thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and people do report this where like they get the diagnosis and they're like, "Oh my God, my whole life makes sense now."
yeah, right. Yeah, it totally does. Um, again, I mean, some people, the word today in 2026 as we record this, the word ADHD is perhaps overused,
Yeah.
and perhaps social media has grabbed all our attention from doom scrolling. So the definition can be kind of unclear, let's just
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's interesting, for and I think part of the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast was because you do have this really interesting story, having achieved a very high level of not only like success, commercial success, or whatever that is, but like of competence in your chosen field, right? Which is number one, not a 9 to 5 job. Number two is very driven by what you're able to put into it.
Mm.
And you literally have a unique way of seeing the world and then making that visible to other people. And so part of the reason that I like that we're having this conversation is a lot of the listeners of this podcast have children who do not fit the mold in some way.
Mm.
And I think, stories like yours are really good signposts for them to just kind of, buckle up and hold on
Yeah.
because we don't know what's going to happen later. I mean, to your point to earlier about COVID, like you weren't planning on a 4-year hiatus from your work or even planning on shifting the way that you do what you do in the world. And yet there you were. Um, so I just appreciate kind of um, the reflection here of like, yeah, we were fingers crossed for the C. And by the way, I used to work at the White House as the photographer there. Right?
The
Like
same kind of cash. Yeah.
that's cool.
It has a hook factor to it. It has a hook factor to it for sure.
So you mentioned that your clients sort of struggle with the business side of things. What in particular? And again, if we're thinking about this creative brain, this, let's just call it an ADHD brain for lack of a better term. What are they struggling with? Like what do they need from you?
Yeah, it's every person is different,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, right? And I have a therapist myself. And now my therapist and we now have more discussions about psychology and um, some deep conversations about human behavior, right? And it's really kind of interesting. And so he told me the other day, he said, Scott, you actually turn more into a psychologist than than a business coach right now.
Yeah.
From what, and I would describe different scenarios and, hey, what do you think about this? Um, so every client's different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I try to meet them where they're at,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I do it in a different way where I think about, hey, if this was me and I was them, what would I do?
Yeah.
And then I just get into that role. I'm like, what would I do? What have I learned? Like I had, when somebody, one of my clients, WhatsApp me today. He's traveling out of the country, and he had a question. A very big, high-end hotel. He was inquiring about his photography services, and this was the first time he had a big client like that, very big client. And he goes, "What should I say? What should I do?" So we just had a quick chat, right? And I said, whatever you do, well, the client asked for their prices. Hey, can you send me over your prices? And I saw the text. I said, whatever you do, don't send over your prices. Oh, really? Absolutely not. Right. And the reason being is, my whole fundamental of being unique and different is not to be commoditized,
Mm-hmm.
not to be price shopped. And I've been doing that my whole entire life, not knowingly that there's a lesson here. It wasn't an accident I got into HBO, the White House, New England Patriots, NFL, Google. I mean, the list went on. It wasn't luck anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just painted a vision. I didn't commoditize it. This is how much it is per hour. It wasn't price.
Yep.
Bigger conversation there. But the key thing is he got an amazing lesson out of that.
Yep.
That I'm not going to share my prices because it's not about the price.
Right. Right.
It's not about the price.
Yeah. And was he able to follow through on that?
Yeah, I got a message. We're in a little bit 12-hour difference in time zones.
Yeah.
For him right now. But yeah, I mean, he got it. I mean, he's really, like now you give him that message and now I don't hear from him for 2 or 3 days, or
Right.
like many clients,
Sure.
because I got a task, they see the vision and they go for it and
Yeah.
they work the next task
Yeah.
and the next hurdle,
I
right?
love it. I love it. What if you have some like budding creatives that you were going to talk to? I'm sure you've done this before. What do you tell them?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's the question?
If you were going to like give advice to a budding creative, what
Oh,
do you say?
Well, the name of my book is called Camera Focus.
Mhm.
The reason being is if I had my camera, I was focused and I could do anything. Get to the White House. I did
Mhm.
because I had a camera. I was very camera focused. So the question is what's your superpower?
Mhm.
What's your magic wand? Camera? Is it a brush? Is it a guitar? Is it music? Because once you find that, you're off.
I love that. And the trick for the adults in the room, if we're dealing with children or young adults even,
Mhm.
is to help kids find that thing. And it might not be school,
Correct.
right? It might be the opposite of school.
Very opposite. Matter of fact, can I share a story with you
Please.
about
Yeah.
uh, talk about parents and being having a creative daughter? Um, I did a photo shoot with Billy Ray Cyrus,
Hmm.
and or I should actually say I did a photo shoot for Miley Cyrus, and Billy Ray happened to be there as her dad
Mm.
during the photo shoot. Okay, kind of interesting. Now, mind you, when I did this photo, Miley's probably like 7 years old, right? Which all feels like yesterday to me. Um,
Yeah.
but during that photo shoot, I brought my dad with me.
Hmm.
It was in New York City. I brought my dad. He'd come along with me many times. And we're at the photo shoot. And he comes over to me and he says, he has the microphone. It's all, diamonds and rubies on it, right? It's really sparkle. And when I'm getting ready to set up for the photo shoot with Miley, and he goes, "Hey, Scott, that guy over there, he told me this is going to go to the Smithsonian." I said, "Dad, which guy?" He goes, "The guy with the mullet and, that guy." Now, mind you, my dad wasn't very familiar with Billy Ray Cyrus as much as I was. And I said, "Dad, whatever you do, just don't lose the microphone. Okay, just don't lose the microphone." And we continued to do the photo shoot. And what I found really remarkable is the whole entire time doing that photo shoot, Billy Ray was talking to Miley like, "This is what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do." And he gave that message to my dad by handing him the microphone. This microphone's going to go to the Smithsonian, right? That's visionary, right? And he painted that picture for Miley at a very early age
Mm.
that this was going to happen.
Mm.
And I'm like, I only realized this many years after when I was writing my book,
Mhm.
because what I didn't realize is my dad was doing the same thing for me.
Mm.
He was at a shoot with me with ABC and Miley Cyrus. I mean, these were talking top level individuals to do a photo shoot with. And my dad's like, "Yeah, okay, we'll go to New York City, we'll do this, then we'll go here, and then we'll do that." It was just a matter of fact that this is just going to happen. Billy Ray was doing the same thing with Miley. This is going to go to Smithsonian. You're going to do that. And this is what's going to happen. Not you're going to do this, but this is what's going to happen. It was always vision based. My
Mhm.
dad was doing the exact same thing.
Mm. Mm.
And it's about parents. Like, can you paint that picture
Mm.
for them? Not tell them, but paint the picture.
Nice.
And it
Yeah,
was remarkable. It was just
that's
remarkable.
that's a great story. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a nice reframe toward from away from telling kids what to do and instead painting a vision for them. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scott, if people want to learn more about your work and how to work with you, what do they do?
Well, yeah, you go to I try to keep things simple. It's funny how I think like that, but
Yeah.
my program is called the Camera Focus Method. So you go to camerafocusmethod.com.
All right. Perfect.
And if you're in business, the business side, you go to businessfocusmethod.com.
Okay.
So yeah, super simple, right? The camera focus method, the business focus method. Go to either one of those sites and we can talk to that individual that's looking for that help in that business.
I love it. Okay. And we will have links to that in the show notes. Scott Proposki, thanks for being here today. This was a treat.
Right. It's great to be.